Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Into Seinäjoki, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Food Province, to Seinäjoki in Etelä-Pohjanmaa, and to our Innovative Food Business Day. My name is Paul Fairchild, and I'll be your host and moderator for the day. Food and drink are at the heart of our history and culture in this region. 40% of our companies are in the food business, and hard work is being done continuously to make the food business in this area ever more thriving, sustainable, and innovative. We're very happy to host you in this building today, Rytmikorjaamo, the Rhythm Garage. It's named because this building was used before to look after and repair post vans. Now it's a music venue which regularly welcomes national and sometimes international bands and artists. This building is in touch with its roots, and our food business in this region is in touch with its roots as well, but always looking to develop and innovate. Today, we're going to hear about and discuss stories about innovation, collaboration, and development in the food industry, which is based on our strong heritage, but always looking to the future. We are very fortunate to have a wide range of speakers, real experts in their areas, to share their knowledge, their experiences, and their ideas for the future. Our day is divided into 4 sections. We will shortly have a panel discussion about international cooperation with our regional RDI organisations. After coffee and networking, we'll break out into 3 different parallel sessions on different themes: health and well-being, food innovations, and combating climate change. After lunch and networking, there will be a choice of 2 different bus tours: the Sustainable Food Chain Tour or the Developing New Innovations Tour. Then, if you don't have to rush off after the bus tours, we have our after-work cocktails and networking event at Kalevan Navetta, another very interesting building which used to be a cow house and has been renovated and converted into an art gallery. But to get the ball rolling this morning, we have a few welcome words from Jaakko Hallila, from the most popular University of Applied Sciences in Finland, as voted by its own students. From the University of Applied Sciences Seinäjoki, welcome Jaakko.
Thank you, Paul, for these warm words. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and a privilege to open this innovative food business event today here in Seinäjoki. I'm very pleased to see many brainy individuals who understand about food and innovation and that they fit together. Because the name of the event brings me memories from the past. I remember being in the beginning of my career, I was a young project worker for a transnational project funded by the European Commission. And the project was a general innovation project with no specific field of interest. We were producing innovative ideas how to change the Europe and its business environment. And coming from South Ostrobotnia, Finland, it was no surprise that my idea had something to do with food technology, food innovation, and food industry. I remember that a professor from one of the main megacities of Europe wanted to have a chat with me. He told me that I was a mistaken young man who didn't understand that food is tradition and food has no innovation. To be honest, I was rather shocked. I ended up having a 2-hour lobby discussion with him, and I tried to explain him the concept of functional food with a minimal success. After 2 hours of very intensive discussion, he was willing to accept that a margarine enriched with natural plant sterols to lower cholesterol is an innovation. By the way, he added that this was the only food product he has heard of which he can accept being innovative. Dear participants, I have much higher expectations for today's event. I'm sure that this facility is today full of brainy individuals willing to share and work on food innovations. Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences is a rather small university of 5,000 students and a bit over 400 staff members. However, we strongly trust in food and we believe in food innovation. We are the only Finnish University of Applied Sciences offering all of the food-related programs available in Finland. And coming from a small but strong food region, we truly understand and value the power of international networks, which you represent. We are currently investing and enlarging our food technology laboratoriums, and after the extension, our food technology labs will be the most developed in the whole nation of Finland. Our staff is highly motivated to work with our 200 international partner universities around the world and all of the potential new partners. This is something which is very unique for our entire nation, I would say. We understand our limitations, but at the same time, we want to build expertise in the limited fields. Working together with all of you is a great opportunity for all of us in Seinäjoki and this area. We value very much the time and effort you have taken to come to this seminar and event today. And I wish you a fantastic event. I sincerely believe that there will be better discussions than the one I had with the professor a couple of years back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jaakko. I'm sure we will have very positive discussions today, brainstorming and new ideas. I should mention that we asked the speakers today to choose their own song for when they come up on the stage. That wasn't completely random. You can ask the speakers themselves later on why they chose their particular song. And now, to really get us in the mood, we have an intriguing sounding talk from Terhi Välisalo. Terhi is from South Ostrobotnia Rural Women's Advisory Organisation, which is part of ProAgria. Experience the food province with all your senses. Welcome, Terhi.
And then I'm here, just me behind my door. It isn't what I have, it's only what I have in store that matters now. The past can only fade.
Great to see you all here. I'm giving you a short presentation about the Food Province of Finland, which means that we are in the South Ostrobotnia, which is one of the greatest food provinces in this country. And we do have some reasons for that. I have some samples coming in to you, so please take one. I will tell you about the allergenic ingredients later about them if you have some allergies, so don't worry. But don't eat them yet, please. The inspiration about my small speeches and lectures about food province with the senses actually comes from the University of Turku research that is done in Seinäjoki. In South Ostrobotnia, we usually say that if we don't have something, we just make it. So we don't have actual University of South Ostrobotnia, but we do have some research which is done by several universities, and one of them is University of Turku, and there is a research group that has been doing really great research about multisensory experience around food, and this lecture is inspired by that. Actually, when you heard the song I was coming in with, there was one sentence missing in the beginning, which was very important of that song for me. And the first sentence goes that they say times are hard for dreamers. You know all the struggle we are having in the world at the moment with the climate change, with Russian attacking Ukraine and other issues as well. But I want to remind you that it has been always hard time for dreamers, because when you give a dream, the first idea is usually, that won't be working. Like the food innovation, there are no food innovations existing. But where there is a dream, there is a possibility. And behind all innovations, there is a dream at first. It might sound to be really crazy ones. And I want to remember that the Food Province of Finland, we are pampered with this country of Finland, and we having all these generations before us that had dreams about different kind of food and innovations around agriculture, innovations about the producing the food. And I want to give a sample of that. It is thought to be crazy in many, many countries to be able to have a production of agriculture of eggs so that you don't have salmonella in it. But there was somebody who thought that it's possible in Finland, and now the system works. We have had salmonella-free eggs, which is actually proven by the European Union and Commission. And those kind of eggs exist only in Finland, Sweden, and Denmark in this globe. The other countries cannot do that. And for that reason, I want to remember this fact that we are pampered with these generations before us to be able to build on these things. And I ask you to taste the first doll of cookie dough. It's white chocolate cookie dough. It does have all kind of allergenics in there, and so it does have gluten. It does have some lactose. And it's not vegan. So if you have some kind of issues like that, please, you can skip that one. The next one you most likely can have. But this is a crazy thing, a very everyday thing in a Finnish family. You make a dough, you just taste a little bit of that. You cannot do it in any other country except for those three. So remember that this is something really awesome we have in our everyday life, and it is surroundings and the generations before us that have had dreams, have made them true and made impossible possible. We are pampered with those generations, and we should be thankful for those. I hope you find it tasty, and it does have raw egg in it. Ooh, scary, isn't it? Don't do that in many other places. So that was about the history and about our surroundings. But how about the Food Province of Finland? How can we call ourselves to be a Food Province of Finland? Yesterday I was talking about the food provinces of Finland, because almost all the provinces claim to be a food province in this country. And we were thinking that we are having too little. We are not loud enough with our food expertise. There are tens and tens of experts which are developing the food province every single day. And in order to understand why exactly in South Ostrobotnia, why do we have the food industry and food production so big? Actually, we have to go down to the geomorphology, how the land is formed. We have these great river valleys, And if you see where the fields are in South Ostrobotnia, they are all in the valleys. We have really great conditions to do this. And when you have great natural conditions to grow food, you of course do that, and you make that your strength. But then there are two big companies. You probably all know the Atria meat company, Valio milk company. They are the biggest ones in this area. But why? It comes also from the nature. It is very important to remember that in South Ostrobotnia especially, many of our fields can grow grass, but not grain. Not all of those can grow grain. And with the grass, you have to have an animal in between the human and the actual plant in order to make that plant edible. We don't have many stomachs like the sheep and the cows have. And for that reason, we have that kind of selection of food companies which are big in here because we have very good conditions naturally to grow those grasses and grain that is suitable for mostly animals. So we need to remember how to rely on those sources we have and what the strengths we have. It's not always easy to explain that you cannot grow human food on all the fields. So I want to give this detail to you in order to have some discussions when there's the food transformation going on and what can we do in South Ostrobotnia about that. Of course, the big companies, they are there and lead the business scene of the Food Province of Finland. But of course, we do have the smaller ones, and the specialty about South Ostrobotnia is that we have very little middle-sized companies of food around here. So we have few very big ones, and then a big amount of small companies that are doing processing, and also the ones we actually meet in our everyday life, like restaurants, cafes, public lunch and catering places, and finally grocery stores as well. So that's like the big scale of the scene, and also I want you to remember the fact about the fields, what you can grow on them. Well, now there's another sample, and now it's time for that. It's salmiakki. The salty raspberry licorice, it's called the love salmiakki, the one you have, and it's from Ilmajoki. Now it's very free of all kind of things. Mostly it's out of sugar, it's vegan, it's gluten-free, it's dairy-free, and there are no nuts. So if you can eat that kind of thing, you can have a sample of that. In the picture, I have this splash of water coming on a lady's head. And that's how it is usually when you do innovation. First, it's very hard as explaining what innovation is, but also going forward with the tasks that you might think at first that it's impossible. But that salmiakki represents the same thing. It's pretty strong at the beginning. You might want to take it away and just skip it and go to an easier ones to eat. But while you get forward with the taste, it gets to be milder, and you can actually like it and absorb it, and then you have like the win in the end. And there is a huge amount of people in South Ostrobotnia working with these challenges and problems of food system. And what is important that we work as a group, and we work as a co-workers and like workmates, even though we are in different organizations. So getting those first problems solved together, we get stronger, and I see a very bright future of the food province in the future as well. I hope you enjoyed your samples. I hope you remember a few details after this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terhi. I think it's quite brave to offer visitors salmiakki. And for any of you that are trying salmiakki for the first time, I would maybe compare it to your first cup of coffee or your first pint of Guinness. Maybe the first taste is not so good, but after a while you can learn to love it or just hate it forever. It's a personal thing. Okay, now it's time for our panel discussion. I'll invite our panel guests onto the stage one by one. I won't give a long introduction because I'll give the panellists a chance to introduce themselves soon. But we have four representatives of regional RDI organisations, and we'll talk about international cooperation and project ideas and proposals. First of all, from Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences, I'd like to welcome onto the stage Taru Mäki. And next onto the stage from the Regional Council of South Ostrobotnia, Pia Kattelus. Will we see Pia dancing today? Time will tell. A couple of cocktails and let's see what happens. And then from Into Seinäjoki, Hanne-Mari Niemi. We want to be starting something, absolutely. And then from the University Consortium of Seinäjoki, Olli-Pekka Viinimäki.
Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down to business.
Okay, welcome everybody. Very nice to have you with us today to share your ideas and experiences. Before we go into details about your experiences and projects and your ideas, it would be nice to get a bit of a background about who you are. When we're listening to people speaking, it's good to know who they are and what their experience is. So in turn, could you tell us a little bit about your organisation and your own role in the organisation? So Taru, first of all.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Taru Mäki, and I'm working at the Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences. I'm working as a research and development manager in the Sustainable Food Solutions team. We have actually 4 big streams in this research and development. And I myself, I have studied business management, so nothing done with the food, but actually nowadays I have done my PhD several years ago, and it was about the effectiveness or impacts of the knowledge sharing between the universities and SMEs. And that's something that I really like.
That's your passion. Okay, and Pia, can you tell us about your organisation and what you do in it?
Yes, I can. So good morning, everybody. I'm Pia Kattelus from the Regional Council of South Ostrobotnia and work as the Manager of International Affairs. Have been doing that for 6 years now, the 7th beginning next month. At first, I have to say that the regional councils in Finland differ from those elsewhere in Europe because we are a federation of municipalities, so we are not a state organization. Our funding comes from our 18 municipalities. And also, even though we have some tasks based on law, like regional development, regional planning, we are not sort of obliged to work issues like food development. But as you heard, we are the food province, so of course it's a central topic, food ecosystem and its development in our regional strategy, regional development plan, and also smart specialization plan. So we sort of try to keep the big picture on our mind and help our stakeholders and organizations, businesses to take things further and support them with that.
Thanks. And Hanne-Mari, tell us about Into Seinäjoki and your role in it.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Hanne-Mari Niemi, and I come from a business development company owned by the city of Seinäjoki, and the name is Into Seinäjoki Oy. I work there as a development manager. So my mainly job is to plan projects, write project applications, and of course work in cooperation with all the other organizations in the city and the region. And I'm also coordinating the Innovation Ecosystem Agreement, which is an agreement between the city of Seinäjoki and the ministry. Work and employ. Is it economy? Work and economic. What is the name of the Ministry of Work and Economy? Yes, TEM, as we say in Finland. And also many other things on my work table, but those are the main things. Nice to be here.
Thanks. And Olli-Pekka, what is the University Consortium and what do you do in it?
Okay, good morning everyone. So Olli-Pekka Viinamäki, and I'm working as a director in the University Consortium of Seinäjoki. And well, it's a difficult question actually, what the University Consortium do here. But we are a joint organization for 5 universities: University of Helsinki, University of Tampere, University of Vaasa, and University of Turku, and also the University of Arts. So we are trying to bring people together here, companies, people who are interested about R&D functions, and try to combine academia and practice, and also innovations.
Right.
So, and we are also, what we do, we running in total 22 research groups here at the Seinäjoki. And we have about 90 people working with these R&D issues.
Okay. So a very large R&D organisation when we think about the size of Seinäjoki. Yes, okay. And the theme has come across already, cooperation, a lot. But so Olli-Pekka talked about the size of the organisation. Hanne-Mari, how big are you and how many development projects do you have going at one given time?
Yes, there is like 30 experts working in our company. And at the moment, like food-related projects, we have directly food. 4 and 7 to 8 persons working with that subject. But all in all, we have like almost 20 different development projects from different sources.
Right. And how about Etelä-Pohjanmaa Liitto? How big are you?
We are around, I think, 25, 27 with permanent positions, and then a couple of people with contracts for projects of different types. None of us are actually food experts, I have to admit, and be sorry for that. But we contract people who are, and of course do close cooperation with our stakeholders like SEAM and Into and others. Of course, university center universities working with food. And we used to say that South Ostrobotnia is the least international region in Finland. Okay, regional council wanted to tackle that, and during the last programming period, we were very much involved in Interreg projects. We ran around, or were partners or ran about 12, and 3 of those were food related. So Nietzsche, and Finch, and no, not Finch, Fridge, Nietzsche Fridge, and eco-waste. Eco-waste was, of course, about food waste, reducing that. And those other ones were directly related to SME competence and innovation. We'll talk about new plans a bit later on.
Yeah,
So.
we will. Okay, thanks.
So that's what we do.
Right. And Taro, can you say how many different sorts of projects do you have running at one time related to food industry?
Food. Actually, totally, Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences, we have about 5,000 students.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think something like 140 projects, R&D projects going on. The Sustainable Food Solutions team has grown very fast in the last 3 years. We have tripled our persons, so we are totally about 70 people. There are 32 full-time and 15 part-time researchers or experts working in 45 food-related projects at the moment. We are waiting decision from 18 projects at the moment, and writing about 16 projects at the moment. So we are big group.
Yes. Very, very big. Lots of different things going on. And how many projects does the university consortium have going at any one time?
Well, I would say that we have in food industry and food innovations, we have about, it depends of course the year, but now we have about 15 to 20 people who are working more or less with these food-related questions.
Right. So it makes up a large proportion of the total research.
Yeah. And I would mention also that we have 3 research groups which are interested in this food. For example, one research group focusing on responsible food chains, for example, and another one is focusing on consumer behavior. And Professor Harri Luomala, who runs that group, is also attending this seminar, so you can ask further questions on Harri.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So that gives an idea of the focus of the university consortium. Food is obviously a very wide area. So, what about Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences? What are your focus areas when it comes to food?
Well, we have actually 3 focus groups, and these are also the research groups. So first of all, there is a sustainable and responsible food production, which is doing mainly projects linked to the agriculture or peatlands, actually, at this moment. And I think there are, well, totally in all research groups, there are 3 words nowadays that all the funders want to have. It's digitalization, and then also this green transition, and then low carbon production. That could be something. But anyway, about this sustainable, responsible food production, I think there is this carbon neutrality, renewable energy, and then, well, sustainable use of peatlands also, and then, of course, this environmentally friendly food production medicine. That's something. Another big research group is food safety and food technology. And there maybe the focus is in the hygienic production, sustainable meat and vegetable technology, and also automation of the food processes. That's something going on. And then, of course, this waste and material balance in the food processing. And then the third big research group is actually the health promotion and care. And there we have experts of nutrition, and actually I think there are the main focus there is, for example, the nutrition of the elderly people at the moment, and then about the vegan food also, and then the health of the children.
Right. So a very, very wide range of
Yeah.
focus areas. Yeah. And Pia, what would you say in Etelä-Pohjanmaa Liitto, the Regional Council of South Ostrobotnia? What are your focus areas, and how do you decide your focus areas?
We are responsible for the regional strategy now till 2050, and also the regional development plan, which is now for 25, and the strategy for sustainable, smart specialization strategy, of course. And those are now all combined in a way, and those are created in close cooperation with our stakeholders in the region. So there are a lot of discussions and interviews and exchange of ideas and experiences, criticism, of course, and then during that project, so as a result, we have the strategy development plan and S3 strategy. And at the present time, we have sort of 3 larger sort of development objectives. A stable and dynamic region when it comes to our population. Less younger people, more older people, not too much immigration. That's something we need to sort of work with and try to make it more stable and dynamic together. And then one objective is smart and skillful region, so which means increasing level of education and improving our RDI. And the last one is flexible and sustainable when it comes to climate and environment. So this is the big background, big picture, and like what Taru was introducing us, it connects. And the direct food-related focus area comes from our S3 strategy, which is sustainable food ecosystem. Surprise, surprise. There are smart technologies and well-being and experience are the two others, but this is sort of the background or the ground from which our regional council works. And we, in our cooperation with our stakeholders, and providing funding, for example, we try to guide our RDI organizations and others to the same direction. We choose the direction together and then try to keep it.
Okay, thanks. And what are your focus areas?
In INTO, in general, we are focusing on projects that somehow benefit companies in our area. And of course, we try to raise up the level of innovation in companies and add the cooperation between companies and our DI organizations. But especially now, I think food export is one topic that is really getting bigger. And then, of course, startup world. We are trying to add the startups in our area. And then the food and tech cooperation, I think, would be one topic. We are trying to find new innovations and new business possibilities from that area.
Okay. Thanks. Right, and you said some of your focus areas, but...
Yeah, so, but anyway, the consumer behavior and marketing, they are creating quite an impressive history of working here. But also we have quite interesting links with the University of Turku, and they have here about the food molecules and molecular biology, and they have done quite a lot of research about the taste taste, sounds, and colors, how they effective the experience about the food, how people react to different colors. And for example, they have done research about the nutrition and, for example, how elderly people, how they react to different colors and food. Because some of the elderly people, they have a special problems with eating and nutrition, and how you can increase the nutrition. For example, adding some colors in the room and food and so on. And also the younger people, they have difficulties with nutrition. For example, what are the healthy snacks in school, for example. So it's quite an interesting research going on around that theme.
Yes, it certainly sounds very interesting, and every parent, or almost every parent, can say it can be a challenge to get children to eat nutritional food.
Yeah.
So anything that will help is very welcome.
Yeah, and also, for example, the overweight. It's the common problem for almost every country in Europe, and especially in the United States. So we have a lot of common problems to be solved.
Yeah, and very, very large challenges. Yeah. Okay, Hanne-Mari, could you just say again your answer to the last question, because we had a bit of a problem with the sound. Your focus is, we could say, on companies and more practical. Could you just say it a little bit more?
Okay, it seems my headset is not working and I blame my hair for that. Yes, I was mentioning that in general, raising the level of innovation activities in companies and the cooperation between companies and RDI organizations. And then the topics that we are focusing now is food export, especially, and then startup world is a new thing that we are focusing on, and also the cooperation between food and tech. So we are trying to find new business possibilities from that area.
Right, and cooperation has been mentioned already as vital in development, and the University Consortium is naturally a national network. Can you say anything more about your national and international networks when it comes to food innovation?
Well, every time it depends on our parties involved. So there's a lot of projects going on, and new projects are, of course, our intention, and create new projects. But basically, all the universities, they are international actors. And every time, one of the key issues with dealing with universities is that you get contact to the international level. And most of the projects we have international partners. And it is actually, when you get funded by the European Union, it's a key part of actions to have an international context.
Right, yeah. So a European project isn't a European project if you don't have international partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Taru, can you give any examples of international organisations or other national organisations that the Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences is working with?
Well, actually, here in the province, we are working very much, or cooperating very much with the universities that are here, and then of course the companies and the farms. But internationally, I think we have something like 5 international projects in Horizon and in I3, in Interreg projects too. And I think the most important network that we are cooperating in is this ERIAF, which is European regions.
You can read from there.
European regions for innovation in agriculture and food. Yes,
and forestry.
And forestry. And actually there are something like 10 working groups. We are cooperating in 5 groups actually at the moment. for example, in the high-tech farming. And then we are actually now leading one of the newest group, food systems, which is, I think, maybe the biggest group already. In Europe, I think there are something like 35 to 40 regions cooperating there. And I think we have also many other international networks, but I think here are some of our experts. You could raise your hand, because I think you are something like 10 people here. Well, many of you are speaking later, so you can maybe tell more.
Yes, absolutely. And Etelä-Pohjanmaa Liitto has a long history of international cooperation, but can you tell us something about your current projects or ideas? Where are you looking for international partners at the moment?
At the moment, we have one food-related application in for Interreg Europe, so that partnership is sort of covered. But this is this initiative of regional innovation valleys, and we applied for becoming a region in that initiative. Now I need to find the proper word for the name for it. It was food safety, I think. Food security, yeah. And those applications will be approved or declined by next March, and then we'll know if we get that status and if we can start building the partnership and see how it goes. Funding, I think, will be applied from Horizon and I3. So it's not, it will be quite competitive, but we are going to accept a challenge with our stakeholders.
Okay.
We talked with Seamk and Inta, for example, about it.
Right, yeah. And when we talk about food security, can you tell us a little bit more, any of you, about what that actually means? So food safety and food security being different things. So is it keeping production in Finland, or would anybody like to say a little bit more?
Well, I think it starts from the production of food. Of course, you have to have safety methods in the fields or in the animal production, yeah. And then the whole process have to be hygienic, yeah. And I think that's the most important part of it, when we are manufacturing the food, yeah. And then, of course, in the restaurants, I think the security of food safety concerns the whole food system.
Right, the whole chain. Thanks.
It's a large scale.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And would anybody else like to share any other project ideas you have where you are looking for international partners? Any other things coming up?
Well, of course, as I mentioned, the consumer behavior, it's a topic, a very interesting topic about, for example, how consumers behave and how they pick up a certain product in a grocery store. It's always quite a good question. And of course, they are related to the sustainability and responsibility, how you make responsible choices, for example, and how the producers can react on that demand. And of course, as Taru mentioned about the digitalization, it's always involved in every kind of research and development projects. So there's a lot of going on.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, and the consumer behaviour, a very important part of the puzzle. You can have a very tasty product, but if no one picks it up, they never know how good it is.
Yeah, and it's also part of the difficulties in the international business. We have a lot of good products here, but how, for example, how the companies can export very good products
Yeah.
It's part of marketing, it's part of branding products and so on.
Yeah. And Finland isn't yet known well enough around Europe as a food-producing country.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. To finish off with, could you tell us one thing that you think makes your organisation unique or special when it comes to food projects and innovation?
Well, if I start, so I think one of the most interesting part is the how to combine in our interest is how to combine for example, the healthcare medicine, for example, to the gastronomy issues and also to food production. So how and what kind of ways they are to bringing the medicine and the food production and industry more together.
Okay, linking healthcare and food. Okay, thanks. And Hanne-Mari, what about Into? What makes you special?
Well, yeah, we are, as this event maybe shows, dynamic and working closely with the companies every day. So, of course, we are interested in projects or we can add some value to the project by bringing up our experience with working with the companies. And all the project ideas that somehow involves and benefits the companies in our area are in our interest. And I think, we are strongly connected also to national level actors throughout our project. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And Pia?
Two issues, actually. I mentioned the strategies and policies already. And then there's money, because Regional Council has now the task to deliver our ERDF funding for development projects in our region. And those are, of course, the program itself has rules and obligations and objectives and so on. But those projects need to also be in line with our strategy and development program. So I guess that's the special for us, that we sort of have the reins with the RDI funding to some extent.
You can make dreams happen.
Yeah, we try to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and I would say that it's the large-scale expertise that we have in this area in other organizations and the companies too, but in our organizations, because I think, we have experts in agriculture, natural sciences, food technology, food production, food safety, nutrition, consumer behavior, hospitality management, tourism, and sustainability. So 70 people and then 1,000 students who we can also use in the projects. And then we have large food and agriculture laboratories. And I think already this amazing range of the people from different areas. So it's very unique to have the discussions in the coffee room. For example, what makes you buy a chocolate bar? That was something amazing, what all those opinions were.
Right. Okay, thanks. Yes, a very, very wide range of different ideas and focus points and experts. And your point takes us very neatly into our coffee and networking, because we are going to move to coffee very soon, but it's not a coffee break. It's coffee and networking, a chance for these discussions to continue, for you to talk to each other and talk to our panelists and keep the conversation going. In this area, in this region, we are not very quick with small talk, and we are not very quick to go and talk to people we don't know. But as we're here for networking, I'm sure that won't be the case now. Be bold, go up to people and start a conversation. Thank you all very much for your ideas. Can we have a round of applause for our panelists?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The discussion will continue and the themes will continue from our other speakers later on. So coffee will be through the corridor, and then after coffee we will break out into three different sections for our three different themes before lunch. Thanks again. Relax, have a coffee, and make connections. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the coffee will be actually back there.
Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everybody. Now we're going to hear three different talks, three quite different stories on one of quite literally the hottest topics in the world at the moment: how to combat climate change. After each speaker has spoken, there'll be a few minutes for questions. So be thinking about what you would like to ask as you are listening. So first of all, on the subject of innovative solutions to reduce food waste at buffets, I'd like to welcome from the University of Vaasa, Juha Vanska.
Hello, my name is Juha Vanska. I'm coming, like Paul said, I'm coming from the University of Vaasa, and I'm working there as a development manager, but I'm also one of the founding members of our Waste Insight research team that have been working with the food waste over the next 6-7 years, starting from 2017. And we have carried out several projects on these fields. And originally, this presentation was planned to be made by Lotta Alhonnoro, but unfortunately Lotta is sick, and that's why you have to. I got this opportunity to make this presentation, but let's see how it works. Okay, when we talk about the climate change and how to combat it, the food waste is one of the key resources, and not resource but source for example, when we talk about the greenhouse gas emissions, so something like 8% of the global greenhouse gas emissions are based on the food waste. Food waste also, when we talk about the food waste, it's also important to understand and to realize that 30% of world's agricultural land is wasted. The food that is produced is wasted. And it doesn't make any sense that, on the other hand, we are over-consuming and getting fatter and fatter here in global north, and in other parts of the world, people are starving. And if we present food waste as a single country, it will be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter, just right after the China and US. And if this current trend is continuing, it means that, especially on the consumer level and household level, the food waste will be doubled by 2050. And this is one of the reasons why, for example, United Nations, as well as European Commission, and also the Finnish government has set up a target to reduce food waste by 50%. And sometimes I think that it's doable, but there are number of challenges that you have to face and try to find solutions for them. Like I mentioned, we have been lucky and privileged to get funding, especially from our regional council, in order to carry out several projects in which we have participated in different roles. We have, for example, the first one that was one of these policy-related strategy papers, Eco-Food for Waste. We were a participant of our local action group, but then we have participated and worked together with Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences, our National Research Center, and now we are collaborating with for example, our regional, I think it's a restaurant management association where our local restaurants are participants and shareholders. But anyhow, we have had the following, so that we have had these steps that we have followed, and already we see that there are new ideas that we can share and discuss. But anyhow, this is a long process. And following this, we are also developed, like I mentioned, that we started in 2017. It was one-man show, more or less. And right now, we have been able to build up a very highly skilled, multi-skilled team, so that we are facing and trying to find solutions to tackle the food waste by studying and understanding the consumer behavior. We are working very closely with, for example, with our local businesses in order to find new digital solutions, how to do it. And then we are using our research-based knowledge about how to engage users into this process. And the latest recruitments that we have is actually focused on the information systems and, for example, the interface design and programming. So we have people who understand this consumer behavior, we have the tech people, we have the kind of innovation research type of people. So we have mixed all these together. And this is very important because this is a very wicked problem. And for example, here, this is concrete results. And we have measured this, and we can show the measures. And for example, here, one of our pilot cases has been the secondary school at Lapua. Very typical school, something like 500 diners or pupils and teachers, something like 400 or 500 people eating every day their school lunch. And we started to work with this, with Lapua Secondary School in 2019, and by the end of 2022, we were able to cut down the food waste by 46%. That is, we are getting closer to this halving goal, but we are not yet there. And financial savings. It's about 2,000 euros per month that the school in this one kitchen is able to save. And it's a lot of money for them. And, but on the other hand, it also means that they are still putting more than 2,000 euros into the trash bin every month. And this is the challenge. And it's getting even trickier now because there are a lot of what we have learned, there are a lot of these kind of low-hanging fruits that you can pick up quite fast. And for example, the cut down food waste by 25-30%. But like everybody who's doing the exercises, understand that there is a kind of learning curve or development curve that takes place very rapidly, and then it's slowing down. And this is the phase that we are right now when we talk about the Lapua case. But anyhow, we already have some ideas how to work and how to proceed, but maybe there is another opportunity to discuss whether or not we are able to do this. So what we have done, we have been very highly focused so that we want to use all the opportunities that the new technology provides. So we have been developing, this is a third generation of our forecasting model or forecasting tool. I'll explain it a little bit later. That helps us to measure and control to see where we go when we talk about food waste. But at the same time, we have learned that this measurement is not enough. You have to put a lot of, and I would say that this is the most critical part of this process, is how to make this cultural, socio-cultural change and how to make it use. Because the measurement, it just provides you some information where you go, but if there are no actions that take place and how you can change your daily routines, this is, all the measurement doesn't make any sense. And of course, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. It takes place and you have to be fully committed to gain these results. So when we talk about the forecasting model, it's actually what we have done is that we want to demonstrate and build up the pilot demonstration where we can use the machine learning in order to predict two issues. How many eaters and diners we are going to have on next Wednesday? This is a big question, not only for the schools, where you think that the number of diners is always the same, but that's not the case, because there are really many details and aspects that you have to take account, and because pupils at secondary school, they are able to choose whether or not you are eating at the school or you go, for example, in Lapua case, you go to the local hamburger restaurant instead of eating at school. And this is okay. And of course, this is something that we have to take into account. At the same time, we are also predicting how much food waste you are producing. And it has been, we have had, for example, on monthly basis, these estimates or predictions have been, we were astonished how accurate and how well these forecasting models seems to be working, taking place that this is only the prototype, that the difference between our prediction and what really happened, it's like 1.5–2%. So it seems to be working. And of course, we are working on two simple assumptions. That if you are able to predict how many diners you are going to have on next Wednesday, it should help you to reduce food waste, because you are avoiding this overproduction that is always the challenge for the kitchen. And then if you understand how much food waste you are producing, then you are able to also think about recipes. Is there something wrong with them? You are able to think about the portion sizes. Is it you have to fix also these, and also you have a better understanding what kind of food waste you are producing, what this consists of. And forecasting model is actually, it's rather simple. We have data. Data is critical, and especially if it's machine readable, and it should be accurate. And we have data, for example, collected from the canteens, for example, the total food waste, diners, recipes. Then we have the school admin people. Rector, for example, luckily we have been very lucky that the rector of the school is very helpful for us and helping us a lot. And it's funny that when you go to the school, you can see that they are working in the same building, but they are big silos. And this is one of the causes, so that the kitchen is working, but they don't provide. they don't get the information about, for example, the absences at the time when the final decision is how much food you are producing today. And this kind of missing links are causing a lot. And of course, we also tried some open data sets, like weather data from our, for example, we have been able to collect them just to try, because we know that it's much easier for the students to go to the local hamburger restaurant when it's sunny weather, but when it's raining, like in November, it's very dark and rainy, most probably they won't go there instead of they are eating at school. So we have been learning on this. And of course, we are collecting this data into our own data bank, and then we have the software that is actually producing these predictions. And one of the keys, what we have been thanked a lot, we have gained really positive feedback also that we are providing all this information, all this software, source code, for example, that we have produced and developed, we are publishing it at GitHub under the MIT license, which means that also the companies that we really want to get these data analytics and software developers, we want them to use and utilize all the results for their own commercial purposes. Not only to tackle the food waste, but also to encourage companies to use this information and to build up collaboration with us. And this is a very practical work, so that, for example, in this case, we had these food-based trackers or smart scales, whatever you want to call them. But we had one order in the kitchen where we measured everything that goes into the buffet and what came back. And on the other hand, we had the different tracker for plate waste. And all this information is collected automatically, and this should be the way, because in our first project, this information was written by hand. When you go to the kitchens, you can see that they use the Post-its, or they use, for example, if they follow the food waste, amount of food waste, they put it on the paper, on the Post-it, and then another person will put it on the Excel table, and so on. And it's really tricky because the system, the software, do not understand that if the total amount was 12.5 kilos, and if you put the comma in wrong place and instead of 12.5 you put 1.25 or 125 kilos, it doesn't understand it. And another thing is that also the terminology, when we talk about the menus, the English speakers, you only have the meatballs, but in Finland you have lihapulla and lihapyörykkä. And all the Finnish understand that these are the same dish. But once again, the software do not understand it. The software understand that these are two different dishes. And these are kind of practical challenges and questions we have to find, that we try to find solutions. And now, like I mentioned, that we have, this is now, what we are working now is our third generation. And we started, the first one was when we built out the forecasting model and interfaces. On the second phase, we integrated the data from these food waste trackers. And right now, when we moved from the public kitchens to private ones, private restaurants, we want to integrate, for example, data from the cash registers. There is a lot of data and it's underutilized. And it's, for us, it's rather astonishing that they are not following this and they are not utilizing it when we talk about the food waste reduction or even food waste prevention. But this is where we go. And then these social cultural changes. Like I mentioned, this is critical. This is highly critical. For example, when we talk about the forecasting, it really doesn't make any sense if you are not able to put these activities and new routines into practice. And in this case, we want to make this food waste reduction so that it's easy, it's attractive, socially desirable and timely, and it's also hopefully as automatic as possible. And this is what we are working now, and unfortunately my colleague Arja is not here, but Arja can tell more about what we are doing right now. But we are developing new tools how to make these kind of behavioral changes in a way that you don't even notice that you have been pushed very gently, like what this nudging is all about. And like I said, this is marathon. You have to be committed, you have to have kind of permission to do things. And of course, this is a very traditional way to do it. So that what we do is we plan, execute, check, and act. This kind of continuous, this is a very iterative process that we want to try. And if we try something here in this restaurant, we want to try it also and make a kind of trials in other restaurants, for example, in this ongoing project. But I have 1 minute left. So thank you. I know that, for example, Risto is in a hurry and I don't want to waste any time. But if you have any comments, questions, please. I'm more than happy, or after the break and so on.
Yeah, obviously there'll be time to ask questions later, but right now, does anybody have anything on their mind? Is there anything you'd like to ask?
No.
And while you're thinking, I could just ask you briefly, obviously saving money is very important to any business and to restaurants. Do you have much resources, and have you been successful in reaching out to restaurants and spreading?
Yeah, because we are working now, it was easy. I was a little bit even astonished how easy it was to open the discussion with the companies and with the restaurants. And we are lucky. We have excellent people who are giving us feedback and also gave opportunity to work with them. And when we talk about, for example, these MIT licenses, it was this morning, I got an email where they asked an access to the GitHub, so that also the software developers are checking now what we have done. And this is what we really want to do, is that please, I think Regional Council has given us something like 750, something like that, 750,000 euros for these projects.
Right.
And of course we want to, this is something that we want to give you all the results. And like I said, that even though that we are giving all the results to the companies and whoever is interested in, it really doesn't make a matter, because we already know what to do next.
Yeah. We have a question over here.
Okay, my name is Henrik Yliseppälä from Consilio. My question, in fact, I have two. The first one is, where would you land Finland when you compare other nations in European Union? Are we behind or are we up front them? The second question is, are you utilizing artificial intelligence somehow?
Well, this is our main purpose, to utilize all the new technologies and try to find ways how to use it in order to prevent, especially this food waste prevention. And one of our kind of missions that we will never achieve, we know that, is that, for example, for services and business like Rescue Club, there shouldn't be any market for services like Rescue Club, because there is no food waste to be sold afterwards. And when we talk about, we know that that when we have been following very closely what happens on the global level when we talk about, for example, these food waste tech companies that are dedicated to the food waste prevention and reduction, we know that first of all it's mainly occupied by startups, and we know that the first company that are working in this field using artificial intelligence was actually, it came from Silicon Valley, LeanPath. And LeanPath is not yet in Finland, but it's coming for sure because LeanPath is working together with Sodexo. And Sodexo has a kind of global goal so that LeanPath will be implemented on global level. But we have really good, for example, in Finland, we have really nice startups that has been in the field and established around the same time that we also start our activities related to the food waste. They are young, but for example, I think on Friday we have one example, this BioVaaka, that is given a presentation on Friday, and it's I think we are doing well. And if we compare, for example, to the Southern Europe, Pia and I, for example, we visited I think it was part of the Eco-Based for Food project, and we organized a kind of meeting in southern France, and realized that there's nothing actually, and it's really astonishing. Why? Because they have, for example, excellent research facilities next to them. But once again, we are very open, and it's easy to build up dialogue with the companies and so on, all kind of development agencies. But they seem to be working that. They are really, really working on silos. And of course, it prevents all kind of development efforts. Hopefully I answered the question.
Right, yeah, thanks. As with most things, we're stronger together than doing things individually.
Absolutely. And we are really lucky that we have this kind of opportunity to discuss openly and make a phone call. I can always make a phone call to anyone. There's no question. You don't have at least one or two secretaries that is blocking the calls.
Yeah, that's an important part of the culture. Okay. Hopefully the discussions will continue during the day, but thank you very much, Juha Vanska.
Yes, thank you.
And now a related but quite different angle on combating climate change. What do we do with not wasting food before it is served to the customers? Exploitation of raw material of animal origin and the global need for utilisation of the Honkajoki concept. To tell us about the Honkajoki concept is the Director of Operations and Business Consulting for Honkajoki Group, Reetta Nevala.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Reetta Nevala, and I actually got a very good heading for this presentation, and I'm here to explain to you more about how we do animal-based raw material processing here in Finland and what are the opportunities globally. Quickly, my background is in international business and working in international context. I've been part of developing this Honkajoki concept since 2017, 2018. And I have backgrounds in education and training, but like this international business development and working with several projects just took my attention, and it's been really interesting. So first, I think that we should maybe take a look how this over 55 years of expertise in Finland has developed. and how Honkajoki started its journey like in the 60s. So I have a short video, so maybe that will explain more than 1,000 words.
The importance of circular economy thinking is more important today than ever. In Finland alone, 250,000 tons of byproducts are generated annually from the consumption of meat. Without proper handling, these byproducts can even pose a health risk for people, animals, and the environment. But with the help of processing and production processes based on the principles of the circular economy, the valuable nutrients of these byproducts can be considered 100% as part of society's cycle as clean, safe, and high-quality products. During Honkajoki's more than 50-year journey, we have created a circular economy concept, which today is one of the world's most efficient and responsible processing models of raw materials of animal origin. Our concept combines responsible circular economy thinking, agroecology principles, and technological innovations. We return 100% of resources back into the cycle by further processing commercial products for production, pet nutrition, agriculture, and industry. The high quality and purity of our products is the result of an efficient and transparent supply chain and carefully planned production processes. Raw materials are always stored and processed in their own species-specific facilities in accordance with EU byproduct legislation. In our production units, high-quality protein products and fats are produced as raw materials for, among other things, the feed industry, animal nutrition, biofuel use, and cosmetics. We also produce raw materials for the individual needs of our customers. We want to continue to be pioneers of the circular economy as we cooperate closely with various research institutes. We actively develop new products, processes, and overall solutions that support our customers and their businesses. In our Kirkkokallio unit in Honkajoki, we have already reached a level where all incoming raw material is turned into commercial products, and no organic waste is generated in production. This achievement is also unique at the international level. Our concept is one of the world's most energy efficient and clean methods of processing animal byproducts. Responsible development of food production is necessary all over the world. At Honkajoki, we give new life to ingredients from the food chain because the circular economy is the only sustainable way for humanity to consume. Honkajoki, wealth by recycling.
So, we are owned by HK Scan and Atria, and in joint venture. And we have like two subsidiaries, Findes Protein, which is actually processing only pig paste raw material at Kaustinen. And then 2017, that was the time when I joined the company, we started GMM Finland, which is only focusing on the expertise and selling the expertise what Honkajoki has gained through the years. So we received about 80% of the total animal-based raw materials in Finland. So it's a little bit over 200,000 tons last year, and might be increasing since the fur industry is slowing down, or the amounts of them buying the animal byproducts for feed is diminishing at the time, all the time. So our vision is to be the safest and the most reliable value producer in the food chain. Our turnover last year was 66 million, and it's growing steadily. Also, one factor in that is that the inflation has also put the prices more high, so our sales is growing. But the fact is that 75% of our sales comes from proteins, fat, and fertilizers, which we sell to different industries. And we offer handling and disposal services for farms, and that covers about 24%, and 1% comes from the circular economy business, where we sell the surplus heat to the greenhouses nearby at Kirkkokallio. And then, secondly, what are these animal-based byproducts which we are talking about? Let's look at that quickly. So basically that means the rest of the animal that we humans, as a humans, don't eat. That doesn't mean that it's not, it shouldn't be like we couldn't eat it, but this is a fact that varies according to continents, according to countries, and according to cultures. So in Finland, for example, we generate more animal-based byproducts in food processing than, for example, in Africa, based on my knowledge. When we look at the figures, here is a cattle, so it's one example. But when we think about, for example, chicken or pigs, that it's not like maybe more than 34% of the animal can be eaten. But basically, the fact is that we always say that approximately like 50 is something that you cannot eat, and it's not we are not able to sell it to humans. But as you all know, that it doesn't matter. You could go even to Spain, you find the chicken legs in shops or grocery stores, but we don't find that in Finland. And in China, even humans eat the pig's ears, which we don't do that here. So this is what makes it like more also related to the culture. But anyway, our business starts when these byproducts are generated in slaughterhouses, meat cutting plants, etc. And when we look at the bioeconomy of this nutrients recycle, our goal is to keep these nutrients in the recycle and to cycle them as long as possible. But when we look at the animals, they're up. All of those generate byproducts. All of those industries and slaughterhouses. Half of it goes to the abattoir, which sell it to the people, and it goes to the food processing industry. And the other half goes as a byproduct to our rendering plants there. We sell fat, proteins, and meat bone meals, which we process through technology. So that is something that you need technology to be able to do. And from those different end products what we produce can be used in different sectors. And that is also important to note that the law and the directives are setting demands for that processing and also the selling and where you can use it. But the point is that most of our fat goes to the processing plants of owners like biofuel producers. So most of the fat goes there. We could also sell it to the pet food industry. The protein meals we sell to pet food industry, and some of it goes to the animal feed industry. And meat bone meal can be used as a fertilizer and as an organic fertilizer that will be used for growing grains, different grains, and also in Finland, which is fur industry animal feed. So during that 2017 and 18, we started to think that since we already hold like 80% of the market share here in Finland, and we know all the news that meat consumption is maybe not growing anymore in Finland, we thought that we need to look at more widely global need for this type of not technology, but the knowledge, how to do this, and how could other countries, like developing countries, also utilize the information what we have gained during 50 years. We started this 2018. We get development funding for this concept development, and that was the time when we started this GMM Finland. We thought that separating this consulting business from the operational processing business, what we have here in Finland, should be separated. We traveled quite a lot. We got to know the market need. We went to see and meet the slaughterhouses, abattoirs in Middle East, MENA region, also Africa and Asia. And I think that we got a quite good understanding where we are and how huge the need is. And in some countries and some regions, we were forced to say that this market is not ready for our type of thinking yet or our type of solution. But the fact that we came around with is that when the population starts to rise from the poverty into the middle class, they want to buy meat. It doesn't have to be meat itself, but it could be eggs or something. So the meat consumption is also, based on FAO, expected to grow quite tremendously. And I think that even now this picture is taken from Namibia, and we faced quite a lot different type of, should I say, it seems like irrational, like the country which is suffering severe drought, and they are growing cattle to be just for meat production. So I think that we gained a good understanding where should we focus and how is this need going to also grow. But when we also look at some statistics, this is a few years back from our sustainability report. It is from Luonnonvarakeskus and Lihatuotanto. The differences that there is between beef, pork, and poultry. Even in Finland, the poultry is one of the growing meat. And beef is a little bit like going steadily down, and also pork. But anyway, the meat consumption itself seems not to be diminishing, but it's just staying the same. But the species vary, and they differ. So I will explain you a few insights of the challenges what I and we faced during traveling and when making the market and market research. This is picture from South Africa, one rendering plant that was one very big meat producing company. And the challenges that we faced was, and what we get the information is that they really thought that their rendering plant here is like a state of art. And on the other hand, on the right side, you see the same type of solution what we have at Honkajoki rendering plant at Kirkkokallio. They say that they are being sold a lot of technology, but they rather wouldn't get the information like what to do, how to do it, and why to do it. So very fruitful discussion, and so told that many European companies come just to sell technology, and they say that they know how to buy stuff, but they want to know how to use it. So what is the design, for example, in Kirkkokallio? Second big challenge is that the resources are very, very sacred there in many countries. Of course, it's very important here in Finland also to think about the energy consumption and the water usage and to purify it well. But here is like two different opposites of water treatment. This is an effluent plant in Botswana where the slaughterhouse was, the fat was actually flowing through the water treatment into the effluent plants. It's like a sewage pond where they evaporate the water into the sky, and that left all the fat that was actually going through to the effluent plants. And the fat should be used, and the fat is something that is very, very valuable, and they are basically losing money. And when it's looking like that, you cannot use it anymore, so it's like maybe source of energy or something, but it's a huge problem. And the other hand is GMM Finland built a wastewater treatment plant for Honkajoki Kaustinen facility. And of course, the view of the water treatment is completely different. And last but not least, I think that this is the biggest mindset and the challenge which always stunned me was even with the big financiers when I was discussing with them, they didn't realize that this is a business. This is a very profitable business when you do it right. Most of our network, when we met them, they saw that this is a problem. So this is something that you should hide and you don't want to talk about. But when you start to ask questions about how much you generate waste, there clearly wasn't any waste. So it was hidden, it was burned, it was buried somewhere. But when we started to open that idea that you can generate profitable business when you invest into this type of technology, you could really create wealth. And also, when we look at the quality of the end products, this is the big bags that we sell, and the other, on the left side hand, there is the big bags that like 50 kilos bags that this one abattoir in South Africa was producing. And that quality is not good enough for pet food industry. Any big players, they don't buy that because they talk about carcass meal and it's the quality. Like even our clients, when we sell to pet food industry, even nowadays in Finland, it's very important that the quality is particular and clear so that they can use it. And it comes to our dogs and cats to be eaten, so of course it's very important. But the demand is huge. And even when Honkajoki, before even any Finnish pet food industry companies started to arise, maybe 2018, 2019, we had to sell our products abroad, even to South Africa. And the big pet food industry companies do exist. Europe, Southern Africa, and when they don't have their own production for this type of raw materials like proteins, they need to buy it from Europe. So they come around and gather that proteins from different places. So the need is huge, and we need to, as a Honkajoki, we many times say that we don't have, and we have too much needing clients, that we are not able to provide all that much end products that they could buy. So that I have 1.5 minutes left, but let's quickly look at the solution, what we created. Our industrial symbiosis started from Kirkkokallio region, and after this huge development project what we had, we wanted to modify it, as we wanted to model this operating model what we have created at Honkajoki. The point is that here different side streams are utilized, so then we can talk about circular economy, where, for example, as I mentioned earlier, we sell the surplus heat, what we generate from our rendering process, where we use lots of heat. We sell it to the organic tomato and salad producers. We have the wastewater treatment plant in Kirkkokallio. We treat also Lihajaloste Korpela wastewater there. And the sludge what comes from the wastewater treatment plant is sent to the biogas plant, where it's generated as a gas. So we wanted to model this and how to be able to concept this and sell it abroad. This is like one picture from the design tool. So we wanted to give the opportunity for all of these type of slaughterhouses and abattoirs around the globe to be able to realize the profitability of this type of business and understand that it's not waste, but it's a side stream and it's a profit, it's value for money. We do all our business according to EU legislation, so we have more strict orders to process the raw material than, for example, in many other countries. But the one thing also why I want to highlight here is that when we met these several abattoir and investors as well, one thing that came very clearly was that they want training and they want the knowledge, they want to know how to do it. And many are very scared to do this type of big investments because, of course, there is money involved and they don't have the expertise how to do this, how to design these type of facilities and how to run the factory. So in our concept, that is one big module, is that we give them deployment and training planning as well. Here we just like one picture how we try to figure out these different type of services that they need and what, but we don't need to go into that too detail. But I think that now we have some time for questions if there is. Yeah.
Yes, we do. We have time for questions. So, does anybody have something on their mind to ask right away? Over there.
Hi, my name is Erja Saini. I'm from Business Rovaniemi. I just have a question from the Lapland point of view. You mentioned species-specific lines. Do you have anything for reindeer meat? And if not, then why not? Is it because of volume, or have you processed that through at all?
Yeah, we used to do processing for reindeers as well. So we did have a collection agreement with Norway, like Lapland. It's like a bigger region. But the problem with that was that there is like a very few, the tons are not like the quality, the quantity of that reindeer carcasses is quite small. So the transport and the processing and all that, it came like it's not profitable. So yeah, unfortunately we had to let that go. It was very, very wanted in the pet food industry. So they were willing to pay, but as a one product, it was quite too difficult. Yeah.
Thank you, Reetta, for a very interesting presentation. I would have two questions. Number one, where do you see, or who are your major competitors? And the second one, where do you see the biggest opportunities?
We have been trying to find out a lot our competitors. And we haven't actually found anyone who is selling only the expertise and the knowledge and the design for rendering plants. We know that there are big technology providers, the companies in Europe and globally, but they don't basically like design the plant. As I can give you one example, when we did the feather plant we opened this year, March, for Honkajoki, we do buy those from Östergaard or Harslev, the big companies that do this technology, but they don't give the design that what type of equipment you should use. So it's like the links between these machineries. So we haven't actually found very big competitors in that sense. So it's like maybe engineering companies, but you should know then quite much about rendering business.
Okay.
And the opportunities, I was thinking that the other question is the opportunities. I think that our opportunities in the developing countries, of course, we have been getting in contacts also in Europe, which is quite surprising for us, has happened like during the last half year, from Iceland, from Estonia. So it seems that also this type of expertise is needed even in Europe, and that has been quite surprising. But of course, we give them our consulting as well. But I think that still the biggest need is in developing countries such as Africa and Asia, where the population is growing, the amount of meat producers is growing, and therefore also the effects to the climate change and the raw material, which is like unutilized, that is of course affecting the global warming. So I see that the biggest opportunity lies there.
Okay, and you don't have strong competitors, so do you see room for cooperation with these technology providers?
Yes, I do, and we are actually negotiating with them. So they know us, that we exist, and I think that in the future, when we move forward and get more bigger projects, we need them and they need us. So yes, definitely, that's a power of cooperation and working together.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Reetta Nevala. And our final talk on the subject of combating climate change is a subject which is close to our hearts in this region, peatland. We have a lot of peatland and we've been exploiting it for many years. It's part of business and it's part of the culture. But how does that fit with combating climate change? So, peatlands and agriculture, impossible combination for climate change? ? Senior RDI expert and associate professor from Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences, please welcome Risto Lauhanen.
Okay, hello everybody, and thank you for the invitation for these food days. And I'm proud to be here in the States, because on the same stage there was the famous Finnish band Popeda with that Mr. Pauli Mustajärvi on the 4th of last December. Well, let's start. So I'm here on behalf of Mr. Kari Laasasenaho, and unfortunately he couldn't come today, and I will tell you the main lines of peatlands and agriculture. So that's the big question here, and maybe also some kind of problem. So we have lots of peatland fields, peat fields on this region of South Ostrobotnia and also other areas, center Ostrobotnia and the region near old North Ostrobotnia. So let's see what happens. Some facts about our university first. We have about 5,000 students at the Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences, and there you can see the figures and numbers, about 800 graduates annually. We have lots of mobility students, and the total staff is about 400 persons at the moment. That in the morning, the welcoming session was held partly by our president, Mr. Jaakko Hallila. We have business school, culture, food and hospitality, and healthcare, social work, and natural resources and technology also. That's shortly about our facts. So this is the background organization, and we are working together with, for example, the local companies in the Seinäjoki, the regional council of South Ostrobotnia, etc. In the high-level panel session, Mrs. Taru Mäki told about the research groups and what are we working, and I don't want to repeat the details again. So let's go. What are we doing with Kari? So Kari Laasasenaho and I, we are working in this sustainable and responsible food production research group, and we are supporting regional green transition. We have projects on resource efficiency and in food systems. Then we are working with environmental footprint, food production, and sustainability. And the wise food production is also on the list, like agrotechnology and big data. Kari and I, now what are the projects going on? We are men who are catching the carbon. Those catching of carbon projects. We are working on the afforestation of peatlands. Can trees take and keep nutrients, and how they catch carbon dioxide from the air. And then we have in this Suupohja region, in our landscape, we have willow plantations growing on. We are detecting new added value by willows, and do they catch the carbon. And of course we are detecting together sustainability, profitability, environmental issues. So we must look at all the time the whole frame of sustainability, including social issues too. But what about peatlands? What is peatlands? And IPS here means International Peat Society. Some definitions, we are talking with organic soil types. Peat is, it means decomposed plant parts that are accumulated in the soil in anoxic conditions. And of course there's water on peatlands, in peatland ecosystems. The level of the groundwater table is high. So organic components and water together. And if we make drains or do ditching on peatlands in forests and fields, or when we are talking about peat production, energy peat, for example. So when peat will contact with air, the result is the releasing of carbon dioxide. And that's the problem, and carbon dioxide is one thing when we discuss about the climate change. And of course, we are talking with peatlands, talk about peatlands, the extreme water conditions may also affect on the decomposition of peat. We have dry summers, we can have very, very rainy summers, for example. Here you can see peatlands in the world. We are in a humid climate in Finland. We have this kind of flat geography. That means we have lots of peatlands in these regions. Earlier in the 1994, I visited also, I was a peatland expert in the Republic of China in the 1994, and I was some kind of consultant there a short time. And you can see the map in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, you can have huge forest fires on peatlands, and that's a problem. Many people will die, and there will be accidents on the sea and difficulties with the airplanes in the air. So this is a global question also. But for this agricultural impact, and this is according to Christina Long, she's working at the National Research Institute of Finland, and we have peat weights about 50,000 of hectares here. That means about 10% of the agricultural land. And there you can see the emission rate, that is 15 megatons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And the fields also, they contain about 2 million tons of carbon dioxide. But when carbon storage is released to atmosphere after drainage, the result is that the emissions are about 700 million tons of carbon dioxide. And that's a big amount. And in this area, the drainage and the peat soils are typical and common, and we need food, and we are working on agricultural land with peatlands. And there you can see about half of the cultivated peat fields are located in South and North Ostrobotnia. And of course we need peat for energy, peat for animal bedding material, and growing media in greenhouses. Tree plants, flowers, so peat is an important growing media too. But the challenge is the greenhouse gas emissions, especially CO2. So, why these drained peatlands are so bad? On the left, you can see emission factors, CO2, carbon dioxide, then CH4, methane, and also this nitrogen dioxide. And here you can see active peat extraction area and abandoned peat extraction area, Notian Port drained peatland forests, and the red one, this is the biggest question here. And nowadays we are also talking about after use of peatlands and revetting of drained peatlands, but like you can see nutrient poor drained peatland forest here, it's zinc for carbon dioxide and methane, and a little emissions of nitrogen compounds here. But here you can see the high rate of agricultural field of peat and drained peatland. Methane and nitrogen, they are slightly positive but not so important. But this is the biggest question here. How to avoid the conflicts between climate policy and farmers, that's a question. We can talk about balancing agriculture and peatland conservation, or we can avoid to drain the peatlands. We can detect good or best management practices, like how to increase the groundwater table level. That means lower carbon dioxide emissions. Then we have these revetting questions and restoration effects. But is the new CAP policy working enough? That's also the questions. There are challenges in the field, like lack of clear restoration policy at the moment, and there are factors which could lead to failures in practical level of restoration wetlands, We have unclear objectives in the administrative level. We have also into agriculture, we have resistance if we are talking something new. And was the question of land owning, and of course profitability and financing questions, such as missing restoration, restoring economy, or lack of markets for the new products. But for the mitigation strategies, we could make markets for agricultural land on mineral soils, and then we need governmental policy and incentives for this sector. So reducing drainage and transition to more climate-friendly agriculture. And then we have carried out some questions on the field shortly. If there would be the situation, how can the landowners and farmers earn incomes and more money by agriculture, considering the restoration of peatlands? So money, like in the song of ABBA. Then one thing here is consumer approach. We are talking about food from peat fields. Peat fields means, most of them means carbon dioxide emissions. What about food from mineral soils? And what's the situation of food export in this frame? That's a question at the moment. When we live in welfare society, we can talk about fine restaurants with fine dining. We can talk about the origin of the food. Is it from peatlands or is it from mineral soils? Then what do consumers abroad, what do they think if they get milk products from drained peatlands? That's a question. But if it's some kind of crisis or state of war, it's so that the main aim is to get food that is safe to eat. In the war situation, you don't talk about the origin of the food. You just need the food for your life. But we need also, our suggestion is this, the collaboration when we are talking about this big problem. We need research, we need awareness and knowledge sharing, and we must think this and discuss about the climate goals together. That means scientists, policy makers, farmers, and local stakeholders discuss together. And conclusions. Peatlands and agriculture, that's a complex challenge. There's no simple solutions. Policy to practice phase is not yet under debate. Real problems can start on a practical level. So let's see what happens. There's also possible solutions for sustainable coexistence, but no single or right solution. So sensitiveness is needed. And we need collective efforts for climate resilience, and we must discuss about just transition of agriculture too. There are some references to read. I hope you will get these presentations later. And now about 1 minute and 15 seconds left. Thank you for listening, and I think now it's time for the comments. And of course you can send emails to Kari and to me later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. A lot of information, a lot of statistics, a lot for us to take in. Does anybody have any questions for Risto?
Well, just comment. So the carbon dioxide coming on agricultural fields is the big, shortly repeat. Carbon dioxide out of peatland forest, that's the main. And how to do sensible, rational work in agriculture to decrease the emissions. So the work is, sustainable profitability, reducing of emissions, and considering social issues and water protection, etc. That's all.
Right. Is there a lot of international cooperation at the moment on solving these issues? This is a big subject in this region. What about on a European level? Is there much talk about solutions for reducing carbon dioxide from peatland?
So this is first. This is a question in Finland. I visited Estonia in last April. They are discussing, but not so much than here. We had an exchange student from the Netherlands, and he made his graduation work. They are discussing, but I think this is because we have so really lots of these peatlands. But I think the consumers in Europe and the European Union and the Commission, I think it follows that what are we doing here and what happens here. So I keep this as a problem. And of course, I told you about the big forest fires and peatlands in Indonesia. So you know that's a big emission if there were a fire accident.
Yeah. And you mentioned income. And obviously for farmers, for producers, if they are going to stop use, or if they're going to change how they're using the peatland, it's good if there's a different source of income. Are many people working on what those sources of income could be?
Yeah. I think we must develop some kind of subsidies. You know, agricultural subsidies already, but how to, like giving carrots, so positive approach for the farmers. We must also discuss about this Seinäjoki region, this landscape. We have lots of, food industry here, big companies. So that's a larger question too.
Okay. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
All this talking about food might make some people a little bit hungry. So I'm pleased to say that next on the menu is lunch, and it will be behind us there. After lunch, at 1 o'clock, the buses will be leaving for the tours. The buses will be from straight outside the main entrance. And after the bus tours, the buses will take us to the Kaleva Navetta, where we have the cocktail networking from 5 o'clock. So if you don't have to leave straight away, we hope you will join us there, and the discussions will continue. So that's the end of our morning programme. Lunch is over there, and see you on one of the buses later on. Thanks.
Thank you.